When treating risks and when picking policies out of the pack that we've included, um, there are some really common ones that it makes sense for most companies to start with. Um, Generally speaking, and this is a generalization, but you should start with breach and incident management. This is generally, but pretty much everyone start with breach and incident management. Everyone would have seen a lot of the headlines about the increase in data breaches and cyber incidents at the moment. It's a serious threat to pretty much every business, particularly if you're processing a lot of personal and sensitive data. But also, if you receive any form of due diligence from investors, from enterprise customers, from regulators, from partners, pretty much anyone who takes data protection seriously, they will look to see if you have a breach process, and they will look to see that you kind of, to put it crudely, have your shit together in the event of a breach. So it's really important that you have this policy, and we definitely recommend, if you haven't already started with it, start with this one and make sure it's done really, really well. Other policies it makes sense to start with would be, so it's really important that you have this policy, and we definitely recommend, if you haven't already started with it, start with this one and make sure it's done really, really well. Other policies it makes sense to start with would be like an overarching data protection policy. We have included the template in this deck. The reason it makes sense to start with this is because it acts like a bit of a catch-all for businesses who are just getting started. It can cover things like information rights requests, retention, deletion, without you having to go and create dedicated policies for each of those areas. Again, this works as a starting point, but as your business matures and as your program matures, you will eventually probably start to need dedicated policies for all of those areas. But yeah, start with a data protection policy. And then the third thing I would recommend starting with and doing really well would be your risk policy and your risk management process. And I think like the key insight that I would share here is that of the many hundreds of audits that we've done, when it comes to risk management, what we see most of the time is in some cases there's no risk register, in which case get one. But in most cases, for mature scale ups, we see companies have a business level risk register with data protection as one line item in it. Now, it works to start with, but when running a privacy program, you kind of almost want to be able to double click on that data protection risk and go in and see all of the sub risks associated with data protection. There are so many different things you can do to run a privacy program and comply with the GDPR, and you really need to pick which things are most appropriate to your business, because the reality is, no matter who you are or how big your business is, you probably don't have time to do everything unless you're Microsoft, and you're probably not, at least for now. So have a data protection risk register that breaks down your privacy and data protection risks and allows you to prioritize accordingly. And so that's a wrap for the treating your risks section.